That's fine.
Okay, all right, so I want to take a peek at the,
Right.
like a terrible roof, I'll explain it in detail, but.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, proceed to the pledge, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a fairly busy agenda this evening. Several public hearings. Just get into opening remarks. I have no COVID updates, no updates from the Board of Health. We'll go into the public hearings. The first one on the list for tonight is regarding the Pride Community Development Block Grant. So this hearing is required for moving forward for that. I'll open the public hearing now, but I'll invite Nicole Justice Green up to kind of define and explain what this is all about.
Good evening, I'm going to go ahead and just pass this around so the board can take a peek. This is the quote of Megan's roof. So the Community Development Block Grant is a grant that's managed by the federal government, specifically HUD, and every year a number of funds are designated for each state. And then within the state, those funds are then subdivided, and counties, cities, municipalities essentially apply for these funds on the behalf of their community. The funds can be used in a number of different ways: housing, community development, and with under the branch of community development, you have business, basically imminent threat, and small business development grants. We in the past have administered a CDBG grant for the town to specifically do ADA compliant modifications to the community building and the armory. This was back in 2015. So we do have a working relationship with Charlie Fillion. Which leads me to this specific grant, which is an open ground grant. This year we missed the large municipal and housing development grant due to Alicia's departure and my hiring. However, when I took this position in August, I inherited a number of emails, one of which was from a new business owner here in Ticonderoga, Megan Skirty, who opened up Lee's Salon. She purchased this downtown building outright, and in spite of it passing its building inspection, within a week of owning the building, she noticed a very active leak in her roof. She exhausted all of her personal assets and finances to purchase this building, and then after, as you can see with the quote right here, she was quoted it was $85,000 to fix her roof. They did not recommend repair because of its profoundly deleterious condition. So obviously within my means, between not being able to apply for New York Main Street grant until the following year for the entire downtown, I approached Charlie Fillion about this specific building, and he encouraged me to approach the town to see if you all would sponsor a application for an imminent threat. So imminent threat is essentially that if this roof is not fixed for Megan in a timely manner, her business will shut down. She will lose inventory. She will have to, basically the building will become uninhabitable for business. With that being said, there's the opportunity with this resolution to additionally apply for other funds for small businesses. So this is the main focus of my presentation and application effort currently. So if you have any questions for me, Megan is not able to be here. She has a wedding work engagement, as she's a busy, small business owner. But she did want me to express her gratitude for you all hearing Pride this evening and supporting her tangentially through this grant.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board or the public regarding this? Nothing heard there, so I do have a resolution. Resolution authorizing the submission of one or more New York State Community Development Block Grant applications for the 2022 program year through the administration of Pride in Ticonderoga. In a motion?
I'll second.
All right, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Since there's no other comments, I'll close the public hearing on this. And we will move to the next public hearing, which is for the Chilson Fire 2023 proposed budget. So this is an annual contract that the town enters into with Chilson Fire every year. The town collects the money for the levy. This year, the proposed budget is the amount of $96,415. This is an increase of about $20,268. But it should be probably noted that in 2020 and 2021, their budget remained pretty static, didn't change. So I'll open the public hearing at this time, invite anyone to comment on this topic. Wendy, Mike, see you over there. And if there's anything you want to say about the budget, feel free.
Just that with inflation and everything else, fuel cost up, everything is, we're looking at it is more expensive than it was a year ago.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. Questions, comments from the board, public? Okay, hearing none, and we'll close the public hearing. I do have a resolution here.
You have, so your contract is not in its final format, though. You have to discuss the changes that they requested before you can adopt their contract.
What did they ask to change?
There's on page 1, page 3, and page 5. I sent this to you quite a while ago. They just had some wording that they wanted to change in their contract, and Wendy can help.
I did see that.
There are more updates.
Do you want to talk about what the changes were that you made?
Okay, on the first page there at the very bottom, the financial end of the fire company is now handled by the board of directors
Right.
rather than the membership.
Right.
So most of this is just word updates.
I read that, and we discussed also the ability for the town, or the differences in the town to look at certain aspects of your funding, I think. I believe you have some sort of account that your money goes into that the town doesn't see, or how does the town account for the money that we give you, where how it's spent and everything like that?
Okay, so we now have different accounts. The money that comes from the town specifically goes into a checking account.
Right.
We also do a lot of fundraising and donations from the public.
And that
That
goes
we
to
have
separate.
a separate account. It's the department checking account. And we also have capital project fund accounts.
So if the town needs to audit the money that we've given to Chilson Fire, there's still that path to do that.
Yes, there is.
Right. That's what I read, and I was okay with that. So I didn't really have any issue with accepting the changes to the contract. All right, so I'll rephrase the resolution. Resolution to approve the 2023 Chilson Volunteer Fire Company annual contract, accepting the changes that were provided to the town. Motion, please.
I'll second.
All right, discussion? Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Unopposed, carried. Okay. The next one, I'm going to actually do the public hearing for the proposed water sewer rate increases before the budget. a little more sense that way. So I'll open the public hearing on the 2023 proposed water sewer rate increases. The proposed water rate for 2023 is $120 per quarter. It's an increase of $8 per quarter over last year for district users. The Chilson Eagle Lake rate has been maintained at $96 a quarter for several years now. This will increase from $96 to $112 a quarter. No one desires to increase these rates. We have used a small amount of fund balance over the years to help offset this. We'll do that again this year and then put a smaller amount of fund balance to accomplish that. It's important to note the town cannot continue to operate with a deficit between our revenue and our expenditures for water and sewer. And using fund balance every year as a revenue source is not sustainable and certainly not an appropriate use of a budgeting technique. So I'll open the floor now for comments on this topic, and anyone who wants to speak is free to do so.
What did you do to try to cut costs on this expense? All the people right now are going to be paying almost $100 a month by the time you guys are done for water and sewer. What did you do to try to cut costs? You developed the budget with input from a lot of different people.
Yes.
What did you do, Mark?
The budget increase, the budget amounts came from the superintendent for water and sewer. Those are all based on current expenses that they have incurred.
What did you do, though, to try to cut those costs? Did you look at personnel? Did you look at benefits? What did you do, Mark? Do you know how to cut costs?
Benefits have gone up. Price of insurance has gone up. That increases the water sewer insurance premiums. Fuel rates have gone up. I can't control those.
You know, where I'm going to go with this is for the people. And you know that I'm a stickler on the water and sewer. When you're taking money out of these people's pockets, 60% of our people here are living on fixed incomes, retired, social security, whatever. When you're taking money out of their pockets like this, it hurts them. You need to expend every effort you have to understand fiscal accounting to try to cut these costs, Mark. You can't keep just every year look at it and raising it up. Because next year you're going to add another 8, and the following year another 8, if indeed you're here. You don't look hard enough to understand fiscal management. Everybody here is not happy about their water and sewer.
Neither are we.
But I don't think that you understand finances well enough to look at the whole picture and where can we cut here, what can we do here? Is somebody going to retire, we're not going to replace them? These are the things that you need to look at. And I don't see it, Mark. So you're hurting the people here big time. And we're not.
Well, it's not our intention to hurt anyone, Mr. Sheldon. We are trying to balance our expenses with our revenue. And we have no control over inflation. We have no control over increased fuel costs. We have no control over increased insurance costs. Right now, the current manning for water and sewer is barely enough to accomplish the mission. And, you know, we do what we can. Saying that we're taking money out of people's pockets, what we're doing is trying to pay what we're expending.
Okay, I understand that. Well, what I'm saying to you is this. What you really need to do is have a chalkboard and you put all these expenses down and you look at, can I take 10%? Take 10% or 5% off every budget line and come up with a number. And then look and see what you can move around and what you can't. You can't just add it up and bing, 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 and you get all done.
Nor can you just do what you just said.
Well, wait a minute. You can do that in a draft form, Mark, in a draft form. Then when you're all done, you look at where can I move, what can I do, you don't work hard enough to do this, so it's easy just to add 10%. You know, I mean, this is what's gone on.
We're not just adding 10%.
Or 5, whatever it is, Mark. You just keep adding it up. You can smile all you want. The fact is, these people
Well,
are
I'm
being hurt.
smiling, I guess, because I don't believe you've got the full picture of it.
I've got a better picture than you do because I understand dollars and cents. But I don't think you work hard enough to try to cut the costs for these people.
Yeah, I'm going to push back a little bit. To begin with, we've had many budget meetings over the past several months, of which we did exactly what you're asking about. We had spreadsheets up here. We looked at everything we could possibly do to keep the budget as low as possible. And the only time that somebody like you shows up to voice their opinion is when it's after the fact. You should be here when we go through these workshops and put your 2 cents in then, and not wait until you see a big number and accuse us of not knowing how we got there.
If I
We did spend the time, we did work hard, we do know fiscal responsibility, and I take exception to the fact that you're accusing us of doing something that is untrue.
I'm accusing you of not being fiscally responsible for these people.
Well, you would be wrong.
I am correct. I
No,
could
you're
come
not.
to your meetings and I could show you how to do this. I've saved thousands and thousands of dollars on stuff like this
Prove
when
it.
I worked in Albany.
Prove it.
I'm not gonna prove anything to you. I
Then
don't
we don't
have
have to
to.
prove anything.
You're the one sitting there.
Then you should be here while we're going through the budget process and put your 2 cents in.
Would it make a difference?
Yeah, if you think you can see something that we don't see, we would love to have your input.
Yeah.
Everybody that is here going through budget time, it's really infuriating to me that we spend a lot of hard work and a lot of time trying to keep these budgets down, and nobody shows up until after the fact.
To say that we just add 10 or 5% without thinking about anything is totally inaccurate.
No, I'm gonna back that. I didn't mean that you just
That's what
do
you
it.
said.
Well, basically,
You
if you
usually say
sit
things you
down,
don't
Mark,
mean.
listen, I would take a draft budget and I would sit down and I would go 10, 10, 10, or 5. Well, I would do it all and I'm all done. Then I look back to where I am. Right now, you've got these
I don't
people that are gonna be
understand.
putting $100 a month away by the time you're done just for water and sewer. That's unsustainable. A lady came to me last week, this is a fact, and she told me she was gonna borrow $256 for her water. You know what I did? I went over and handed her $256 in cash, and that's a fact. Okay, to help her, you shouldn't have to borrow money for your water and sewer. So what I'm saying to you is you need to work harder. You need to work harder.
You had a chance.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Wait, just a second. Wendy had something to say.
I would just like to say that when you had your workshop for the fire company, we came down.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
We sat here, we talked with you, you put up on the board our budget, we walked through every line. We told you our story, you had questions, we answered, we worked through it all, and we came up with a number.
Right.
And
That's the
I
way it's supposed to
applaud
work.
you for thank you for listening to us.
Thanks. Nicole, you have something?
I would just like to make my public comment towards the budget and more broadly this increase that I noticed specifically, Mark, you took a salary reduction in order to demonstrate some fiscal responsibility. And a number of citizens have noted that, and I would like to applaud you for that fiscal responsibility. And having served on a number of committees with you in which we've had to come up with extensive budgets, I've seen your due diligence and appreciate that. As a citizen who has to pay for this water increase, I know the stress the town has been under in order to balance these budgets and fix our water issue. And I'm happy to pay that. And if a citizen is struggling in any way, shape, or form, Pride has a number of continuum of care resources for them. So I recommend and would encourage you all to give them our number, and we'd be happy to help them and assist them.
That's
through
important to
utilities.
know. Pride is in the business of helping people who are in these types of situations. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Are there any other comments on this? Yeah.
I got a question, Mark. So it's nice being on this side of the table for once. And to my friend here, Frank, there's a lot more to the budget than I think you're aware of. So it does take-
I'm totally aware how budgets.
Well, I'm not looking
More
at
than
you.
you, Mark, more than you.
That's okay. So I just have one question. I noticed as I was going through, and this also applies to the general budget as well, because obviously this is water and sewer separate.
Yeah.
But there were increases in salaries for everyone except for the superintendent for water and sewer on both accounts. And I just was curious as to why.
Yeah, I was going to get to that later. So one of the things that we asked this year is if department heads and elected officials would be willing to freeze their salaries. And so that's what most of the people did.
I got you. But as far as water and sewer goes, it's completely separate from the general account. So from which all the board and yourself and Tanya and even the highway department. So that, but specifically, because I didn't see it uniformly across every department head. It just seemed like there were selected individuals, namely.
One department head, and of course this was voluntary, it was not mandatory. One department head chose not to reduce or freeze their salary, the others did.
Okay. And then there's also, maybe it's an error, I only have the tentative. I didn't look at the preliminary yet, but the water sewer clerk seems to be short by about $8,000 for her line. I don't know if you just want to check on that on the sewer line, I believe.
For what line was that?
I believe it was a sewer. I know there was so much work that was done in the last, during my term, just to try to make parity with all the employees. And
You're talking about in terms of compensation.
no, just hourly rate. Maybe, I think it might have just been a typo.
Which one was that? Full name?
Hold on a second.
Yeah, no, no.
There's no page numbers that are chronological, so I'm just... So on your sewer, the sewer looks right, but on the water, it looks like it's $13,000, so about $8,000 less than what should be allocated for a full-time. Because you split the salary between both water and sewer per clerk.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and have you check on. Okay,
So,
that's all I have. Thank you.
Good point.
thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Yes.
Mark, is it true that there was, I believe Peter Dono had signed did a cap on Chilson Hill because of the water issues with the possibility of cryptosporium and some of the other things that can be present in the water because of not having that adequate filtration and treatment? I feel that maybe we should still remain capped. You know, we're not able to drink the water. I mean, there's gotta be some help for us up there. Plus, you know, as we all know, been a big battle with this, and we're tied up pretty tight on trying to keep gooseneck, but there seems to be some kickback from that.
Or at the moment, the expenses and the revenue don't equal for Chilson and Eagle Lake. They don't believe they have some time.
What is the direction now on the water up there? I mean, with AES, I know they're looking at different avenues for bringing us water.
That's a different public hearing.
Yeah, we can't, that's not for discussion here. This is strictly on, you can ask that during the public comment
Okay,
section
okay.
if you like. Do that. Anyone else? I'm sure there's any- Okay, if there is nothing else on this one, I will close the public hearing on the proposed water sewer rates. And we will go into the public hearing for the 2023 proposed town budget. Right now, we are in 3 different labor negotiations. Inflation rate is about 7.17%, 3 times higher than it was last year. Despite this, the tax caps remained at 2% from the state. This has impacted a lot of municipalities, including ours. We've got an 8.9% health insurance increase this year, or for next year. The fuel costs and transfer station costs have risen quite dramatically. And as I mentioned earlier, several departments have frozen their salaries at 2022 levels. We've frozen all of our obligations to town organizations that provide services to the town, like TAC, TMSP, and others, at 2022 levels. As I mentioned, all the elected officials have agreed. It was not a mandatory, it was a choice to freeze their salaries at 2022 levels. The town clerk graciously agreed to do that. We were trying to do whatever we could, little by little, to keep the budget in check. As Nicole has already mentioned, I froze my salary at 2022 level. I've cut $3,000 off it, and I've paid some money back to the town at the end of October to basically reduce my salary to $35,000 a year, which is what I had promised to do during the campaign. The board did pass a local law to exceed the tax cap. We were hoping that we were not going to do that. We did have to pass the law just in case something came up and we were still had the opportunity to do so. Further discussions that we had as a board just came to the conclusion and decision that we would exceed the tax cap, but we would do it in a way to use some level of fund balance to lessen that impact. Again, the town cannot continue to use fund balance as a revenue source. It just is not practical. There's things that we can't control. We can't control fuel prices. We can't control insurance rates. We can't control New York State minimum wage increases. We all have to pay those increased costs. The longer we use fund balance to totally offset these things, the greater the sticker shock is going to be at some point along the way when we can no longer do that. So at this time, I'll open the floor to comments, particularly on the budget. Yes.
Well, Mark, I think you're talking about sticker shock and you're talking about getting your budget down and all that. But the fuel oil prices double this winter and the grocery prices that people are going to be paying, I'd be looking for a shortfall next year in your taxes. You may have to do some drastic reducing. I mean, that's just fair to look at it.
I mean, with the increases of our homes, with the assessments this year alone, some of us have doubled. It's like, can't we use any of that to help adjust things?
Your assessment money goes into the budget, and in terms of what your overall levy ends up being, based on the value of the property that the town that's within the town. I'm not sure what you're asking. I mean, so in effect, as the assessor evaluates properties and updates the assessment, all that information goes into the budget process and eventually ends up as part of what, after you've taken everything out, after you've used fund balance, of what the levy's going to be, cost per thousand. So in essence, yeah, it does play into that. Yes.
If we go over cap, is that going to affect our STAR program?
I don't know if that affects the STAR or not. No? I didn't, okay. No, it's the answer.
Okay.
Good question.
Do we lose any other funding?
No.
So the state and federal will help us in binds down the road if we go above the cap of 2%?
When you go above, when you do your calculation for next year, that is part of that goes into the next calculation that you went over the cap. Yeah, it's the same thing as if you use a lot of fund balance, that also starts to play into the calculation for the next year when you do your tax cap kind of calculation.
What's the
Seems
fund
like
balance
the
for
people
if you don't
might
use
need
it?
more time to digest this, if that is possible. I know on the computer site that you guys have, it wasn't there as of yesterday to see the packet that you guys have. So a lot of people really aren't aware of it, to actually, get a packet and go through it and see exactly what was adjusted.
If you look at the budget on the first page, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. But if you look at the first page,
It's 104.05 what you're showing here. That's unexpended fund balance. Is that right?
so your first page usually shows you what your appropriations are, both the general fund and the DA fund. And then it talks about what you've got in revenue for those two funds. It gives you what you've expended in fund balance. And fund balance, that column of fund balance is not only fund balance, but what monies have been carried over. That were monies that were not spent, didn't need to be spent for that year. Maybe their costs were less, or maybe they budgeted too much the prior year. That goes into that calculation. That gives you your eventual final appropriation, what the town needs to raise in terms of that. Now, where the assessed property value comes into is into the final calculation for the cost per thousand. So, getting back to your assessor question, as property is assessed higher or lower, that will affect your total value for your assessed property and change up or down in your cost per thousand that you pay. And that's when you're talking about levies, you've got your general levy, your highway levy, fire levy, whether you're in Chilson or whether you're in the Ticonderoga Fire District. what you're paying for property tax per year. Somebody else? Somebody?
I mean, your fund balances are there to be used if you need them, correct?
Fund balance is to be used if you need it.
Right, and when you need
There's
it.
supposed to be a healthy fund balance, and that depends upon, the municipality. What, the comptroller's office doesn't really give you a specific value or percentage of what you should have for fund balance. You have to carefully do your budget so that you're not overtaxing and building up fund balance that shouldn't be built up over a long period of time. At the same time, if your fund balance is too small, then you're obviously not properly budgeting to begin with to properly cover your expenses.
What happened to the $2 to $3 million that they happened to find? Whatever
I
happened
don't know
to
what $2
that?
to $3 million you're talking about that was happening.
They happened to find when they did Joe Giordano can tell you this, because that was $2 to $3 million that was found when they did the financial audit a couple of years ago. Is that money still floating around, or is it not?
I have no idea. I don't know what $2 to $3 million you're talking about.
Joe, when they did where are you, Joe? When they did the financial audit, they found.
It's not a discussion, I mean,
Okay.
for our meeting, so it's not for
All
our.
right. Okay, the fact of the matter is, Joe knows that there was a $2 to $3 million fund balance that was found, okay, because of, I don't know what
You
the
don't
whole
just
process.
find fund balance.
Yeah, they did find it, because there was, the financial pieces weren't right before. He knows it, listen, everybody knows this. But I'm saying to you is this, fund
To
balances
say
are
that just
there.
everybody knows this, that's such a general statement.
Yeah,
based
it's
on
it's a correct
no
statement.
fact at all.
Yeah, it is, Mark, it is, Mark. And there was $2 to $3 million that was found when they did the financial audit a few years ago. And we've talked about it, people have talked about it, I've seen it. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why can't we use that money? If indeed that's true.
Use it for what?
You could use it actually with board approvals and state approvals, you can move that money around to use it in areas of need.
And we do that. We do it all the time. We do it every month.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just saying, if this $2 to $3 million is out there somewhere, why don't we use it?
We have fund balance. We use it every month.
Okay.
I guess I don't know what your question is. We do have fund balance, we use it all the time.
I just wanted to know whatever happened to the $2 million that was found when they did the audit a few years ago, and it's been mentioned in here before. Nobody knows about it?
There is fund balance.
We have fund balance.
Present fund balance, and I don't know the exact numbers, but there is fund balance. It's significant.
Yep.
But it's imprudent to use fund balance to offset ongoing expenses. Because eventually you're going to run out of fund balance, and then when you do, a budget is arbitrarily kept low because you're using fund balance, right? Because you're using it to offset, and once the fund balance runs out, then you're going to be a huge jump in your budget and what's going to get taxed. So it's imprudent to use fund balance to offset significantly any kind of ongoing expenses.
If you attend our monthly meetings, you'll see us move fund balance constantly to move into line items that were overexpended because they weren't, like fuel, for example, when your fuel rates increase and you run out of money in that line item, we'll move fund balance into it to make up for it. I mean, it happens all the time. If you came to these meetings, you'd see that.
Yeah, I don't come to all the meetings, I don't want to. I get online and I can see the minutes and everything. I know what's going on.
If you could see the minutes, you wouldn't be asking this question.
Mark, listen, let me just kind of say this. We know, and I know, and Mr. Giordano knows that there was a $2 million fund balance that was found. It was even in his campaign, okay? So don't tell me there wasn't a $2 million fund balance.
Said, we have a fund balance.
Right, so why aren't we, listen, fund balance is there to expend it if and when needed. Right now, the people need it, especially in the water and sewer. So why aren't we looking at
We
ways
have
to use
expended
this?
some fund balance in water and sewer to keep the rate down.
Well, so expend some more.
Then what happens when that fund balance is gone a year from now?
We worry
Or
about
2
that
years
now.
from now?
No, you don't worry about it then. You worry about it now.
Exactly, because then you can go from, okay, so let's put this in perspective. So if we didn't use any fund balance this year to keep the rates down, water and sewer, right, rates down, they would be to 156,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
$156 a quarter. So we are using fund balance to keep them down. We've used fund balance to keep them down for the last, since I've been in office. You can't use fund balance to bring them to zero, right? Because at some point in time, you're gonna run out, and then everybody's gonna say, how come my water and sewer bill or my taxes have gone from this rate and have quadrupled because you've been arbitrarily keeping them suppressed?
And you cannot continue to do that year after year after year because fund balance is not a resource, it's a revenue resource.
So my question to you is this. People are gonna be paying pretty soon, they have to put aside $100 a month for their water and sewer.
Well, that's not true. It's $120 a
Well,
quarter.
add the water, add the sewer to it and everything. When you add it all together, it's $256, okay? And when you add the extra money, there's gonna be a point where they're gonna be paying, they have to put away $100 a month. That's a lot of money. Right now, there's a lot of people that are hurting. We should be using these balances. We can worry down the road, and you say don't do that. I understand how all this works. Down the road, there may be other things that come up that we can use for money. But right now, we've got a lot of hurting people. And then to just jack the water and sewer up is wrong.
We didn't just jack it up.
Jack
It's
it
still lower than what it should be if we were covering all our expenses on water and sewer. And we are using fund balance to keep it down so that there isn't a one-time singular jump in those rates, and that we're trying to, keep it as low as we can for the foreseeable future. And you can't take all your fund balance and use it, and it's improved. It wouldn't be fair 2 years down the road when you have no fund balance and now all of a sudden your taxes are going up by 40%, right?
Yeah, but you look every year to project what's gonna happen in another year. You've got time to adjust and move things. All I'm saying to you is this, we need to make a better effort to keep the cost down for the people. That's all I'm saying to you guys.
That effort was made.
Well, I don't think you made enough of that.
I'm sure you'll never agree with that. But
No, I
that
never
effort
will.
was made.
Okay, but thanks for taking my
Of course.
input here. Yeah.
Is there anyone else on this?
I got some more. So just to piggyback on what Frank was saying, I guess he's probably asking, what is the fund balance remaining for the general? No, that's what's being used.
Well, that's highway and everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. and
So when
then,
to your point, just for everyone's edification, the books had not been balanced for many years, and we went through that whole process. The audit had brought that up. When we finally discovered exactly how much was in the fund balance, it was somewhere between $2 and $3 million, and for general fund, and a little over $1 million for highway. Okay, so
Thank you.
So we've clarified that, and that money has been actually put into capital reserves because a number of the board members sitting around the table have worked diligently along with our department heads to put money into asset management, which the town had never done before. That kind of speaks to the whole issue of water and sewer rates being what they are, because every year, if you look at the debt service that we're paying, there's been a lot of work that had to be done recently to keep our water system compliant. Without that work being done, you would not be able to drink the water. You'd be paying fines, and then you have no water, and you probably would still be paying a fee. But
Thank you for clarifying that.
Sure, you're welcome.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
it's very difficult. The town's in a situation where it has to continue to, stay the course and think to the future, because it's not something that can just be done one budget cycle at a time, but you have to look in the future. So I think Mark's pretty much on par with the rest of the board as far as what we have progressed last few years in terms of projected last few years for water and sewer rates. So, and you have to use fund balance to keep that to keep the rates low. I always like Dick Howard's not here, is he? No, we always get into that discussion about
You're safe.
cars. It's like if you had an old car and you never did any service to it, how long would it last you, right? It's the same thing. Our water system just hasn't been kept up for many years, and so
It's
now.
an old system.
Yeah. Someone had a question about what happens if we go over the tax cap. I believe state tax credits are forfeited. So even though the STAR, I don't know how it affects the STAR, but you get the tax credit rebate in the mail?
Yeah.
You would not receive that if the town goes over the tax cap. I just had a few more questions. First of all, it's good to see that the sidewalks are still being funded. I think that it's nice to see that that project's moving forward and they're being replaced throughout town. It's nice to see there's money for the comprehensive plan. Did you guys finally have been able to work that in there? I know in times past we worked with Pride to try to get some grants for comprehensive plans. That's one of the avenues. Maybe you guys can still try to
Yeah, we'll certainly get grants.
some grant money for that. I didn't see any budget in here for rescue squad. And I'm trying, forgive me, a lot of information's gone out of my head since I left, so, but, I know, and we had given in the last few years, but I didn't see anything in here, so is that just not part of the budget, or, because it should still be?
Where we are with rescue squad is, the projected cost that they had asked the town to do for 2023 was going up into the $300 to $500 million range. $1,000 range, sorry. Yeah, I wish it was.
Okay.
So what we're looking at now is an EMS district, whether that's viable.
Okay.
So that it would be collected through a levy, not through appropriation. We will be looking at, towards the first of the year, as to how much money the town might use out of fund balance to float EMS to a point at which maybe possibly we could get an EMS district. Of course, that goes to a public referendum. If we cannot get an EMS, the voters to approve an EMS district, then I'm not quite sure what the future of high EMS is.
And I don't know if you can answer this, and maybe Matt can answer it, but is the EMS district the same as a fire district?
It's a little different.
Okay.
The
They don't
board of
have-
commissioners for an EMS district would either be this board or a board that this board chooses.
Okay.
They can still collect revenue, and that would come back to the town.
Oh,
So it's got some differences.
okay. That's good to know. So, but I didn't see it in the budget, so as far as...
It's not, we did not put an appropriation for that into the budget. If we decide to fund it at all, it would be next year.
Well, I don't mean appropriation specifically, but like last year you had given money for rescue squad, right? So there's no sheet in there specifically for the rescue squad.
No,
But there should be, because that sheet is
we
what
didn't have
Bill...
one last year.
No, Tony, we took money out, but if you look at the budget, if you took any particular budget sheet, you see it goes back a few years, 2021, 2022 adopted, 2022 adjusted. So you had given money in the last year, this current fiscal year, right? So that should be printed as part of the budget. Maybe I'm not, but what is the rescue squad number, the account number? I forget. Do you remember? Maybe I'm just missing it, but I just...
So, Joe, what you're asking is, should that blank sheet of paper be in the budget list as zeros?
Yeah.
No, because that was...
You have it, I'm sorry, you have it on 36...
That was under rescue.
It's 3625, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I blew past it, so my apologies.
Yeah.
So it is there.
It is there, I was looking for...
3625 is rescue.
Yeah, but EMS is in there along with Life Flight and
Yeah, they're still all in there.
They're kind of-
just now.
yeah,
EMS isn't funded.
sorry, I thought it was on a higher number, my bad.
Didn't they allocate 75,000? Was it 75 you allocated?
71
to that?
this
71?
past year.
It was 30,000 plus another 41.
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine, they need it, you know, yeah.
So my final question is this, it comes back to personnel. I see that there's a 8th position now being provided for in the police department.
Yes.
Could you maybe just speak to a little bit of that? I know we had conversations as a board when I was there, but I didn't...
Yeah, so as you know, there's always been that sergeant position, which hasn't been funded. There's also, I think there was also an officer, 1 or 2 officer positions that have never been funded, but they've gone on the books.
Yeah.
This year, the police chief has requested an additional sergeant for a number of reasons. 24-hour shift coverage, recruitment and retention possibilities, promotional possibilities, to eventually help try to reduce some of the overtime in the department. The chief feels that he can significantly bring down overtime costs if he has this additional position. So right now the plan is to, and I don't know how long it will take to get somebody, several officers have taken the exam.
Yeah.
I assume that one of them would probably be eligible to be promoted from officer to that sergeant position. We wouldn't probably immediately backfill that officer position, save some money over amount of time, but that is the current gist behind the new sergeant.
I'm sorry, say that again.
That is the rationale behind the new sergeant.
Okay. So with that, I just think about my experience when I was in some of the challenges with just internally with morale, which a lot of the public obviously isn't directly connected with the people that are working for the town as much as the board is. But the increase just for the 8th man is about the equivalent or more than the equivalent of the 2% increase for the overall budget. And I know budgets are difficult. You got a lot of constraints here, as we've just talked about, all the different things you're trying to balance. But from my perspective, for the people that work for the town, it's hard to see, especially with career positions like the highway superintendent, the town clerk, even the water and sewer superintendent. All three, you add them all up, they've had 60 years of experience for the town. And for them not to have any kind of increase in salary, and yet you bring on a new person, at least at this time. Again, there's other things you can shift and so forth, but that was
Well,
one
there
of the
really,
concerns.
there really wasn't other things to shift, and as I had said earlier,
the overtime.
Mr. Sheldon,
Sorry.
as I said earlier, this was something that we put out, that I put out there in terms of asking if people would consider freezing salaries. It was not mandatory, it was volunteer.
Okay.
This all goes into, I don't see one related to the other, adding the position versus not increasing the salaries.
I'm just talking about you're balancing your budget.
I understand, and you're correct, the new position was a good chunk of, we still would have gone over, but it was a good chunk of going over.
Well, it is more than I think it's $130,000 is your allowable tax cap, and it's pretty close to that. So it just leads me to my last question, which is, again, the hierarchy that was discussed with department heads and staff and so forth, making sure that there was that distinct, that gap, so to speak, between supervisory positions and staff. I assume at some point in the future those will be re-elevated back, hopefully to compensate those people who have given up for the purposes of training.
As a matter of fact, next year we're probably going to have to look at more than a 2% jump for non-union labor, because it's been 2 for several years, and that's not keeping up with inflation.
Right. Okay. Very good, thank you.
And the overtime, you're not, the actual through 8/12 of 22 was 32, and the actual for 2021 is 57, so it looks like that came down a little bit, which is good. I understand.
There are actually several departments or areas that have come down or have maintained. Most of the ones that have maintained have been smaller things like historian, which is not real big revenue generator, big expense generators anyway, but a lot of departments have cut costs.
Joe, did you say that we were gonna lose the STARS program?
Do you have a question for the board?
Well, he said it, and I wasn't sure if I heard it right.
What is your question?
We lose the STARS program?
No.
We don't lose it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I'm
Because
not.
that would be a bad thing for the people. I mean, that,
Mark answered that earlier.
right, okay. No, that's good.
Anything else on the, yeah.
Thank you. Boy, listening to tonight, we're going to try to swim against the current a little bit. And speaking as the president of the library board, Black Rock Memorial Library, I encourage you to consider raising the amount of money that is spent currently in the budget that is scheduled to raise it $3,000. And the reason for this, again, listening to everything else that's been said tonight, but I really do feel that I wouldn't be doing my job as president of the board if I didn't come before you and say, let's take a look at the amount of money that we're spending for books. The amount, I believe, is $18,850. And that amount has not been changed since 2018. And of course, we talked about inflation and everything like that. If we raised it to $3,000, it would still be below what inflation guidelines are saying, just covering the cost of living. And the library board is going to continue to purchase books. Last year we purchased 21,000 roundabout to purchase books, which meant, just like you described, we have to move, money was moved to different parts of our budget, which means then we're not, satisfying or meeting the community needs in other areas. For instance, we have not bought as many large print books, which in this community is very valuable. We have cut back on DVDs and CDs and all those kind of non-book resources that our patrons like and would also, it's valuable for the community. And just to let you know, and I'm not sure that you know this or this, that we are trying to do our due diligence in the way we spend public money. We have received a lot of help from donations. And they, for instance, the Friends of the Library, our support group, gives about $5,000 a year to purchase books, children's books. So that's a program that, that money is not tax money, but it's being spent to help the community. They also have a about $850 program that they bought for us, so that we don't, if a patron comes in and wants a book, we don't just automatically go out and buy it. We can use the library system, the Clinton Essex Franklin library system, to get, if a book is available in another library, we can get it eventually. What the Friends did was to buy us a subscription in another program which allows us to go to pretty much any public library in the United States and borrow a book for a person. So the books that we're buying are not just somebody just wants to come in, I want this book. It's library staff looks carefully at what the reading, first of all, what is recommended for communities our size, also what the reading population of the patrons, they know their reading desires and what they're doing, and you know, we're watching that money carefully. And we do have people who will donate money for us to buy books, but I'm concerned if we reach out and we keep doing that, looking down the road, when we have to use the money that gets donated to buy books, that means in a couple of years we're not spending the money to develop the 6 Carnegie place, which is going to be it's going to be great, but it's also going to cost money, and we do have donors already lining up to give money for that. But when we take the money, if we use the money that we have in our special projects funds to buy books, buying books isn't really a special project, it's something that should be done. So I ask you to consider raising the amount, and I think what we can work with is $3,000.
Steve, after this meeting, I'll write you a check for $3,000. Okay? I'll write you a check for $3,000.
So we'd like another 3,000.
Who wants the bench?
Thank you. Yeah.
Can I just
Thank you.
make a comment?
Sure.
You know, I'm looking at, just like everybody else is, I'm looking at prices going up no matter where I turn. I understand with a budget. I have my own budget, which is nothing compared to yours, but it's all I have to compare yours with is my own. And I'm finding that I'm cutting a lot of corners already. I'm not 20 years old anymore, and I'm still running 2 businesses so I can keep my home. So my thought is, I have to pay my bills first, and I have to buy my food and pay for my medical insurance, and then I have to worry about beautification. And I'm not saying Ticonderoga doesn't need new sidewalks, new roads, blah, 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 whatever else, you know, cutting the grass however often. My suggestion just would be, I would put off a new sidewalk for a while if it was my private sidewalk. Even though I have people coming to my home because that's where my businesses are. I don't mow my lawn as often as I like to now because I have to buy the gasoline for my lawnmower. So maybe don't mow the lawn quite so often at the community building and at the park. And, you know, I think there's places like that those little things are gonna add up to big things if we use a little common sense like that.
Don't
And that's just my own look, you know, I'm not criticizing, I'm just suggesting.
No, just so you know, specifically for the sidewalks, the $100,000 that we're spending this year, although we're probably not gonna spend all of that, was a grant from Betty Little, when she was in the New York State Senate. So that's reimbursable money, we spend it and we get it back. But no, I hear what you're saying, and I can't say that I disagree with you.
Just a thought.
Another reason why, as you know, like I said earlier, we give money to TAC and TMSP because they do certain activities for the town. And this year, we didn't cut them, but we didn't increase them either. And those are some of the little things we have been looking at to try to just, they all add up. Every little thing adds up.
Right.
But no, I agree with you. Thank you. Yeah.
Mark, on your police budget here on the board, on your police budget, you talked about having 8 guys on your police department. You're gonna make 1 sergeant. You're gonna take a patrolman and make him a sergeant.
If he qualifies.
Yeah, if he qualifies. Let's say it happens. The union is gonna say, hey, we got a blank on the schedule now for patrolman that we gotta fill with overtime. That's what's gonna happen.
Well, the chief believes that he can reduce the overtime cost through the use of this sergeant, so. I trust his
Well, I
judgment.
think, to clarify that, it's the sergeant and then backfilling the position.
The backfill won't occur immediately, though.
Right, but I mean, that is
That's
the overtime savings is with the backfill position, not with the sergeant position.
Well, the chief believes that the sergeant will help reduce the overtime. That's what he has said to me.
Okay.
That's what he said to us when he was in the judge.
But we've heard that before and before too. And I'm not saying anything and downgrading anybody in the police department. My husband was a police department, in the police department here. I would be the first to say, we need them, especially with everything going on with the young people. Nowadays, we're old, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing when you look at that, because we have grandchildren. They don't live right here, but I'm thinking of everyone, you know, like that. So I'm thinking, I've heard that before, if you get us another patrolman, it will help with the overtime. But I do know that I've seen that because I've always watched it, and it won't, I don't think I can
Well, I know, I hear,
go along with that one.
yeah, I told the chief that I was gonna hold him that, and if this doesn't work out, maybe the sergeant goes away. But he is, I told him that I would hold his feet to the fire to make what he said happen, so.
Tell the chief he can do away with 2 guys riding around the same car a whole lot of time too, and switching their shifts.
Well, I leave the policing to the police officer and his judgment as to what he needs for patrol at certain times of the day or evening. I mean, they're the experts in that. I
But
would
here's
not
another
micromanage
thing
them.
too.
I'm sorry?
And from where we live, on top of Chilson Hill, and I don't know if anybody else sees anything like this, they might go by in the morning, I wave to them sometimes when I go out in the afternoon, get my mail, everything's fine there, they wave to me, they know who I am. But the most people I see on 74, now again, we moved there 44 years ago knowing that we're on a state road.
Yeah.
And I'm not complaining there, but I'm saying, all I see are the state troopers.
Yeah, me too, that's true.
I would rather see a little bit more. I don't pay for lights up there, I don't pay for a sidewalk because I'm on a state road. But I still pay the same amount of taxes that everybody else does down here in the prior village. Because this is what happened years ago when we relinquished our village and we were gonna save a lot of money, and now everything's going up and up and up.
You
I
know,
know it's the times,
if you
but
ever-
I'm just saying, let me see a little bit more of, I would give them gas out of my pocket, $25 to go up there. I feel more comfortable if I know there's somebody around there. You know, the state troopers, all they do is write tickets, as far as I can see, or have lunch.
You know, if you feel that patrol isn't adequate in your area, you're more than welcome to call me, or you're more than welcome to call the chief and ask him what his patrol routes are and what times of the day they patrol. And maybe you're not seeing it, I don't know, but he's more than willing to talk to you, and if you need more patrol, you
Thank
need
you.
to tell him.
Yeah, thank you.
going to say something again. No? Okay. Okay, if there's no more questions on this, I will close this public hearing. And we have 2 more public hearings to do this evening. The next one involves the adoption of a new local law for the Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. This is a newly revised New York State law which requires the town to update its current law. I don't know, town attorney, if you want to give a brief summary on exactly what we're doing with this new law.
Yeah, so earlier this year, the legislature actually was ended last year, but adopted updates to the Uniform Fire Protection, Building Code, Energy Code, Electrical Code. And as part of that, we have to update our local laws. So we worked with Dave Burrows to identify the requirements of New York State that we had to update. We've adopted it, or we've drafted it. There's a local law on the docket tonight, next to public hearings, one to adopt a new one. Sometimes we, just amend prior local laws, but the changes in this were so substantive that we're just adopting a new local law and repealing the old local law 2 of 2016. So that's really the changes. There were no changes to like building permit durations or any of that kind of stuff. They decided to keep the same time limits and things like that are in place. So it's more internal procedure for the town administering fire code.
So I'll open the floor to any comments that anyone may have in the public meeting on this one. It's a pretty straight mandatory thing that we have to do. Any comments from the board? All right, seeing none, we'll close that. We do have a resolution later in the meeting to actually adopt a new local law. The last public hearing that I have here is the repeal of the current law, which, as Matt said, is the same thing where we will adopt the first law and repeal the old one. I'll open the floor to that public hearing if anyone has any comments. Board has any comments? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on that one. And we'll move on. All right, so then we'll go into committee meetings. Start with airport. Airport committee met on November 1st. The minutes should be attached. Discussed a number of items, status of the Beacon Tower project, some future hangar space. There's a lot of pilots out there that would like more hangar space. Process for some upcoming service repair. There's no plans to have a meeting in December. And I don't have any resolutions from the airport committee. So I will move on to buildings and grounds. Michael, go first.
You want to do session?
I'll be short and sweet.
Okay.
The Army lights, we put the new LED lights in the Armory. And we're putting them in the bus garage too, because the yellow incandescent lights are all going. So as long as they're there, they're doing that. And we're gonna redo the wiring down here, get rid of all this on the floor, and help Heath out over there. We're gonna run some wiring over there and put an access door behind Tanya. And the poles at the park, we got the poles in and the cameras are going in next week for the, at the basketball court and the kissing bridge. That's all I got.
I guess I'm on.
Yeah,
Parks
you're
and
on.
Rec.
Yeah.
Just want to give an update on the marine monument that was was asked to be placed in Bicentennial Park. And then we asked to have it put in Veterans Park. It is now in Crown Point according to the Sun News, and it's going to be dedicated to mourning. It's, I guess it's the main park. I drove by, it's sitting next to a pavilion, so I'm glad that something has happened with it, and it has a home. We do have a cement pad over there that was designated for the monument in the Veterans Park, and I decided it's a perfect spot to put a new park bench so people can sit there in Veterans Park and honor the veterans by doing that. I placed some other orders. I've ordered 2 other steel benches. 2 are going to go over here by the clock. Unfortunately, I ordered some cigarette disposal things. things, this is the small potatoes compared to everything else we talked about tonight. But there has been a problem with smokers too high sitting their cigarettes on the street, on Main Street. And hopefully this will take care of the problem. And another problem we've had is with our dog stations. One has been vandalized on the Shoot Trail. I've ordered more stations. And I'm also ordering a huge supply, Tanya, of dog waste bags. 6,000. I hope they'll last for a while, but who knows. And in terms of, now that I brought up the dog park, let me say, you may have seen the article in the paper about the fact that we were concerned about the dog park, that we needed volunteers to step forward and help us out with that, because when the park went in, it was to be a volunteer effort. The town allowed the people to use the town land. Everything that's there was donated through Linda Mackey. But unfortunately, the volunteers had changed and the park was beginning to look not as good as it should, and people were not cleaning up after their dogs. However, since the article was in the paper, I've received 4 phone calls for people who want to help. Dale Rafferty being number 1, who's there every day. And also Paul Winters from Cakes, and he's there every day, so he's going to step up and help too. So I only had 1 complaint, and that was somebody who lives near the dog park and really doesn't want it there. We are working on changing the local law. It really needs to happen. We've had the, I guess I don't need to talk about that now, cleanup done in our parklands of the campsites. It did cost the town a lot of money, and I'm looking forward to a law that will prevent people from setting up a campsite on our town property again. We've had some problems with theft, petty theft, but annoying theft. If you come in on the Ford intersection, you will notice there's 4 flagpoles that are lit, and the lights that light them are in the wooden flower containers that are there. Well, somebody has stolen 2 of them, and I just can't understand why somebody would want to take something like that. The bad news was that they cost $300 a piece. So I'm hoping that it doesn't happen anymore. And I'm very thankful for the water department because they've been very helpful in making sure that they were taken care of. More good news about the Robert Rogers statue, and if you don't know where that is, it's right over here. It's that wooden statue that's in what Mark likes to call the bus station. It has finally been painted the way it should be painted, and the interior was lightened up so people can see the statue a little better, and that was done by volunteers, and I'm very thankful for that. For next year, I've got some big ideas. My big plan this year was the playground, and I'm so happy that that's in and being used by the public. Next year, I'd like to consider working on the entrance to the park where the flagpole is. If you walk the park, you know that area is sinking, and it's not getting any better, so we need to do something. Plus, the landscaping there is very outdated and needs to be fixed up. I'm also talking about the fact that our entrance to the park is maybe not the safest for pedestrians because they're sharing the walkway with motorists. And it's unfortunate that that's the way it's happened, but I think we could reconfigure the entrance so that there could be a sidewalk coming from the crosswalk on this side, and then the sidewalk would go down into the entrance to the park and take people off the blacktop paved road, which takes you down to the fishing pier.
And that was one of the things we looked at with the RI.
Yes, yeah. And another thing I'm going to be looking into is the fact that we have a very nice Christmas tree out here in our front lawn, and it's a very important part of the community that we have the tree lighting ceremony, and everybody has been enjoying the decorations that we do for the holidays. However, our tree is not doing well. It looks like the top is dying off. And so we're going to try to find a suitable tree to put down in Bicentennial Park and have it be next near the pavilion down there. But in the meantime, this one will be used this year, and if you notice, we improved the lighting on that last year too, so it's pretty spectacular. Let's see. There's been some change in recreational park. A group has stepped forward and they wanted to change field 2. They're shortening it because it's too big a field for the kids, the age of the kids that are using it. And another hope is that when they do that, they can also use the area that has been vacated from that field and use it for T-ball. So that's in the works. Our next meeting is next Tuesday at 8:30. You're welcome to join us. Oh, yes.
Let me just say one thing for this first resolution. So, library board and I, Steve, have been talking about a memorandum of understanding between the town and the library board, so that we have on paper some of the things that have challenged us over the years in terms of who you go to get leave, when the library is open. We just kept reinventing the wheel and never had anything to refer back to. And so this memorandum of understanding, which I sent all of you some time ago, is an agreement that lays this out pretty clearly, I think. The library board has looked it over and they're pretty happy with the changes. They had some changes that came back to me and I made those changes. It's pretty clear on now, what we do when, how we do the process for when the library shuts down and how they notify us and all these other things. So I think it's a pretty good document. I think it'll help us as we go along, and so that's why I put the resolution.
I also just want to say before I make that resolution is, I attend the library board meetings, and I have to say they're a very dedicated group of people.
Yeah.
And the library has a tremendous amount of use. It's just, we're so lucky to have that. So thank you, Steve.
Well, thank you, and I think the memorandum of understanding is going to save about 30 minutes a meeting as we try to say, well, what did we do before, and how we can do this, and actually tested it a little bit this week,
So anyways, I have a resolution here to adopt the memorandum of understanding between the town of Ticonderoga and the Black Watch Memorial Library Board. I move that.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, it's getting to be cold, so now I have another resolution regarding a skating rink. A resolution to advertise for a skating rink attendant for the 2022 and 23 skating season.
I'll move it.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And I got the next one.
Yeah. Read it with pride.
Yes, this next resolution has caused a lot of laughing in the finance office. I have a resolution to purchase dog waste stations and bags from Bow Wow Waste in the amount of $899.43.
Motion, please.
So moved. Necessary evil.
I'll second that.
All in session? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I have one add-on here. I have a resolution here to re-advertise for a library.
I'll move it.
Second.
Part-time.
Yeah.
Is it 10-hour position also? 10-hour position?
Yes.
Discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Carried.
One more with the library. Well, no, it's discussion.
Yeah, so the library board gave us they're looking at doing an asbestos inspection on the structure at 6 Carnegie. So I've got, they went out and got the 2 verbal quotes for the procurement policy. One was for $2,500, the other one was $725. From my understanding, choosing the $725, the library board would fund that out of their current contingency.
That one
These 2 quotes satisfy the procurement policy. I would just recommend that we go forward with the, was it Ryan Wild, 725? Are you comfortable with?
Yeah,
I mean, there's a big price discrepancy.
well, when I went to Buildings and Grounds, I was told that the typical inspection was $5,000.
Yeah.
And I reached out to a couple places. One was Angie's List, and the $2,500 I don't think the guy is from the area, and in both cases, I sent pictures of the building to these people. The second one, the 725 one, I think his business is in Washington County, and he was, familiar with the area. And both of them said that if you do the asbestos inspection before the goal is to tear that building down and demolish it and remove it. But if you do the asbestos inspection before you put out a bid for demolition, what happens is if there's no need for abatement, then you can get a local contractor to come in and do it. If you do the abatement piece, if they find asbestos, well then the abatement, there's very few in this area businesses or contractors that can handle both. I mean, they're out there, but they're not around here. So, that's okay.
We can help you with lead-based procurement. We have a number of contractors working for Pride currently doing lead abatement.
That would be great.
Just throwing that out there, sorry.
Okay.
Here we go. With your trick.
Okay, well, that kind of throws a little spin into it. As to who might be paying for this. At least what we can do on our end is probably have a resolution to at least get approval to have Ryan Wild of Clearview, I guess Clearview is the thing. The authorization for Clearview to conduct a pre-demolition asbestos inspection at a cost not to exceed $725. And that was an overall, no kidding, tax included cost, or
I'm sorry?
the cost of $725. That was the total, all in included, tax and everything.
Yeah.
Do you know? Okay.
Yeah.
At a cost not to exceed $725, and I guess depending on who ends up paying for this, we still have approval to do that. Does that make sense? A resolution to authorize a pre-demolition asbestos inspection of 6 Carnegie by Clearview at a cost not to exceed $725.
Okay.
It's our property.
We have to do that before we move forward.
We have to do it.
Okay. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
So whose responsibility, thank you, whose responsibility will it be to contact Clearview?
Yes.
Do you want?
I mean, the library board can certainly do it, or that's probably preferable.
Okay.
Since you've been dealing with them.
Yeah.
The other area that I had with Joyce for discussion was about the campsite cleanup costs. I think Tanya sent everyone an email about what the cost that was incurred in cleaning up those campsites. There's some.
People may not know what we're talking about.
Yeah, there were a number of campsites
At least 4.
along the river. They've been lived in for several months. I think some of the people who were there were from the homes on Montgomery Street that was consumed by fire. They vacated, and the town was left with removing the debris. It was a significant amount of debris from the pictures that I saw. So the town did employ somebody to remove that debris. We had a bill for it. I believe we already paid for it tonight. But there's a question as to, are those individuals responsible for paying those costs? How would the town go about seeking reimbursement for that?
We have a litter law.
Yeah. We would have to get obviously the names of the individuals that they've been charged. I don't have that information. I don't think we have from the chief of police yet, whether they are arrested and charged by the local police or by the DEC.
DEC did arrest some of them and charge them, and I believe some of them came to court this past Wednesday.
Okay.
And they were given my information as to what it cost per campsite, because they know who was in each campsite.
Okay. I believe it's certainly worth the town's effort to attempt at least to get compensation for that. I don't know what the process for that would be from a legal standpoint. But we can certainly look into that. If everyone agrees that we should try and get that one back.
It's close to 4,000.
It was well over 4,000.
Yeah, we may never see it, but it's worth at least pursuing.
Okay.
All right.
You're probably better off than I am.
I will.
Okay.
I'll get the ticket documents from the court and see if I can interject in the criminal proceeding for restitution.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all we had. She has something else.
No.
Okay. Moving on to economic development.
Mark, was there any arrest made on,
If you can just hold that till we get to the public comment period.
Okay.
Try to remember that. Thanks. Move on to economic development. Committee met on October 19th. Minutes should be attached. Significant discussion on included TRA, Thai Alliance child care planning. Of course, we discussed community block grants and a process to track the lodging industry data that we have. A lot of the local lodging industries that we have here turn a lot of people away. And so we're trying to get data on that to really to help in future economic development planning to convince other developers that there's certainly a market here that's untapped for them to establish a presence here. Next meeting is scheduled for November 16th. I have one resolution here, and that's to add Nicole Justice Green to the Economic Development Committee as the new representative for Pride of Ticonderoga. I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Carried.
Good addition.
Welcome.
Thank you.
She's already crashed one meeting so far. All right, Highway Transfer Station.
Okay, we met on the 25th. There was no public comment. There was a discussion on the storage containers at the landfill, and that went back up a bit.
Yeah, they'll be in next week.
Because of the size of the containers, we could 30 yards would have been ideal, but we got quotes on 40s, so we're refitting it.
Did you check in to see if the 40 would fit? It's just a height difference in
It
the
will.
container. Yeah, it looks like it would.
They know that.
You've had it before up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had a discussion on the sidewalks. To date, we've done 1,400 feet that have completed. And we're going to try to do Macon Street next week, weather permitting, and if Sal gets the blacktopping done. They changed, the highway garage changed the boxes on the small trucks and did all the maintenance for the upcoming winter season. And they're blacktopping the end of all of the driveways where we did put the sidewalks in and adjusted them. And we talked about the repairs on the highway shed and the salt shed, and with no decision made. And the discussion on Grove Street and St. Clair is still undecided. And there was no resolutions for the next town board meeting. We adjourned at 9:35.
There is one. There is one resolution.
Oh, okay.
We have one resolution to place an
Yeah.
advertisement for the winter no parking ordinance.
Yeah. I'll move it. Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Municipal facility.
A couple of things we have been in the process and it's still ongoing is updating the report that was put together by Alfondre back several years ago. We're trying to update that, which is a report that was identified some needed repairs and other items with the different buildings owned by the town. And we are trying to propagate a spreadsheet that one of the board members, the committee members put together to identify what has been completed over the course of the last few years and what still needs to be completed. So we have a a good report that we can give to Buildings and Grounds so that they have an idea of what their, what they kind of need to budget for going forward for future years to get some of these items prepared. We still have a few buildings that need to be evaluated, but we expect to have that done by the next committee meeting, which is the fourth Monday of the month. We are still dealing with AES on a new police station and location for it. We have had them draft up a site plan to put the police station in the highway department. It appears that it fits with plenty of room without interfering with the operations of the existing highway department. There are some items that we have some questions on, and it's in draft form at this point, so we're continuing down that path to get a site plan completed, and then next steps will be to go into an architectural mode to actually get the police station designed and be able to go out for bids and know what the actual cost will be to build a new police station. We are also simultaneous operation with AES is looking at to see if we can combine some of the other departments into one location, which would be at the highway department as well, which would be moving the building and sewer, water and sewer, and buildings and grounds potentially into that location to try to combine everybody into one location as opposed to having them scattered around town. So that's just an evaluation that's being done, and we're just trying to determine what the best way forward for that is. And so that's really been our focus over the last year or so, and some of that is coming to fruition. And that's really it. The rest of it, if anybody's interested, can be found on the minutes posted on the website. And the next meeting is scheduled for Monday, November 28th at 6:30 p.m.
Thanks, Tom. Public safety?
Okay, we met on the 25th. Guests were Mark Wright, Matt Fuller, and Bill Dorsett. The meeting started at 8 o'clock. We opened to the public. Bill Dorsett, Kennedy Drive, and Birchwood Drive, stating that they were denied the speed limit change. I told him that I talked with the county, Jim Dugan, and he said that it would take at least 6 months to a year to enact any other change. And Supervisor Wright has some information from Eagle Lake property owners regarding the funding of some radar signs. The police department gave us monthly report. There was approximately 384 calls to service, 31 arrests, uniform traffic tickets 78, DWI arrests 3, accidents investigated 11. Speed trailer is taken out of service for the winter. On 10/4/2022, arrested John Cox Gilbert Jr. for driving while intoxicated, unclassified misdemeanor. On 10/5/22, arrested Kathy J. Groshans for criminal possession of a controlled substance in the 7th degree, Class A misdemeanor. On 10/5/22, arrested Shylum P. Supersol for driving while intoxicated, classified as a misdemeanor. On 10/22, arrested Krista Cook for criminal possession of a controlled substance in the 7th degree. Again, a Class A misdemeanor. On 10/14/22, arrested Supersol for assault 3rd degree, again, a misdemeanor. On 10/17, arrested Edward Fuller for criminal mischief 4th degree, Class A misdemeanor. In the Codes Department, they had issued 8 building permits, and they had a number of sightings for like garbage and stuff like that that they acted on. That's all I got.
So I've been contacted by a couple of residents about Jacob's Breaks or Jake Breaks. usage in town. I sent out some emails, there was a bunch of discussions going back and forth on it. Apparently this topic has come up to the board with past boards. And it's, I guess it's potentially possible this is already covered under the noise ordinance. Jake breaks are kind of like no parking areas. It all comes back to enforcement. There's a noise ordinance, it just comes back to enforcement. I don't know what the board wants to do about the Jake break issue. If it's been discussed a lot and significantly in the past, I don't want to rehash everything, reinvent the wheel. If it needs to go back to a committee for discussion, that's fine. The reason I put it under public safety is because, Jake breaks are...
I don't see how you're gonna stop it, there's a guy here.
Yeah, I mean, Jake breaks are a safety measure.
Yeah. I mean, if I had them on my truck and I used them, I'm sure.
Jake brakes aren't the problem. The problem are there's no mufflers on the trucks.
Yeah.
There is a noise law.
Oh, I know. I mean, I live right next to the bypass, and I can hear them every.
Even if you could put up a sign that says no Jake breaks, you still have an ordinance that covers noise. And so you really wouldn't be accomplishing anything additional towards resolving this. And again, like I said, it comes down to enforcement. You can't just have a policeman sit in the car all day and wait for someone to come down the street and engage the Jake. But I get the understanding. I understand the complaint. I mean, I hear them all the time in my office.
They're definitely a safety thing, but some of the guys use them as toys, that's for sure.
So, I'm just bringing this up for, information. I don't think we need to, because we have a noise ordinance right now, I don't need to, we need to pursue any kind of Jake
The only way you
break.
could do is to hire another cop, just like you said.
Just to do Jake breaks?
Just to do Jake breaks.
And no parking.
No, I'm serious, there's probably 50 trucks going down that road.
He can sit right near no parking area and do both.
Then you need a noise meter, that's gonna cost you.
Yeah, you need a decibel meter.
Well, it's just like,
I just want to bring it up.
Refer to the state police, that should not be messing with.
Yeah, I mean, the residents reported it, was only due diligence to bring it up, so. All right, I'll move on to public works. Minutes from the October 25 meeting are attached. We can have another discussion on the Black Point Pump Station. Currently looking at a proposed UV light unit plan to help alleviate that issue. AES is preparing some references and the final budget that's associated with that. We have discussed the process for the termination of contract users in Chilson and Eagle Lake area. I do have a template for this action, and we've got some additional process and planning tools to go forward. I have one resolution tonight to do one of the first people who have asked to be disconnected from the gooseneck line. And for that process, we are using a resolution template. But for follow-on individuals that request disconnection, we have a process that there's certain things that have to be satisfied. They have to have a written request of the town to request disconnection. We need to verify that internally they've disconnected. We need to get, what was it? I can't remember. We get a sign off by the property owner. The supervisor would have to, yeah, there was two other things.
Yeah, so you have one, that Peter Montes that are on for tonight, they're the first one who requested it. What we put together is a process, generally because it's contract, right? It would take the property owner to request termination and the town board to approve it. Obviously, that's a once-a-month process, it would be a town board meeting. What we put together is a process that would allow the town supervisor to authorize the termination if the account's current, right? You get a
Yes.
signed request from the property owner and confirmation from
Wastewater superintendent.
wastewater superintendent that the physical termination has actually occurred. And that's also something that we have to document to the Department of Health and EPA. And AES has drawn up a form that Derek and the team can use to do that. So anyway, what this does is it makes it a little easier for the property owner, so they don't have to wait once a month, essentially. And we included a provision that, you know, quarterly or more frequently, if the supervisor wants to do it, the supervisor will report back to the town board as to who's disconnected.
Right, so there's two things we're doing tonight. First of all is the Piedmonte resident, through resolution, to have them disconnected, and water and sewer is going to go up every Monday, verify that the internal connection is completed. They've already provided a written request, so that satisfies that. I'm told that they're going to bring their account to currency on Monday, I believe. I'm going to drop something. And then, and like Matt said, the other part is, there's another resolution to authorize the supervisor to approve of these disconnections in the future, but I would probably report every board meeting if there was something, activity in that area. But,
I got a question on that.
yeah.
So in other words, the way I interpret the last sentence.
Can you wait until we get to the comment period? So I have a few resolutions here. Let me just go to the one that we're talking about right now for the Piedmonte, and that is the resolution to to terminate water service for the property located at 2147 New York State Route 74. This is tax map parcel 138.13-2-11-123. It's owned by Nicholas P. Piedmonte and Desiree M. Piedmonte, and this will be contingent upon having the valid termination request, which we do. Excuse me. Verification that the water account is paid in full, which it will be, and confirmation by water, wastewater, that there's a physical termination of the property. So once all these have been completed, I would sign off on that termination, but that is the resolution. I'll move that.
Second.
All right, any further discussion on this?
Where's their properties on Eagle Lake?
Yeah.
Just curious.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
So carried. The other part of this, as I said, this is a resolution authorizing the town supervisor to approve disconnection requests by water users in Chilson Eagle Lake. Again, this is something I would report back to the board on a monthly basis if there's something to report back to. So, motion?
I'll move it.
Second. Discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? So that's
Nah, I
carried.
didn't hear the first part about it. They dig it up on the main, it's gotta be shut off on the main.
It's just got to be physically disconnected.
Yeah.
But I mean, do they have to go in the residence to do it, or can they dig it up on the outside and shut it off right on the main?
That's a good question. It depends on the property. That's not to doubt your answer, because some, Derek probably would be better equipped to answer your question, but some have shut-offs, some may not.
Yeah, that's
So
why I'm asking.
you can shut it off and cut it on the other side of the shut-off, but it'll be a physical disconnect.
And I don't know what DOJ or DOH is going to request in terms of defining termination.
Yeah, physical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the other resolution I have is public works. Is an authorization for the supervisor to sign a certificate of substantial completion for AES project 4394. This is the Portage project. There's a larger scope of work that has to be completed here. They have a punch list that needs to be completed before they'll submit the final document for approval. This substantial completion document is just simply says that the larger scope of work has been completed with an understanding that the punch list and everything else that remains to be completed will be completed, and that will lead to the second and final piece of documentation for the town to sign off on for total completion.
This this punch list include the signage for no parking?
I don't know if it includes that, it does include the lawn, you know, repairing the lawns and seeding them. I don't know how much seeding is gonna get right now, but, I didn't notice, it's a long list, I didn't notice if signage was one of the things on the list.
I'm just afraid that it'll go by the wayside.
Well, you know, we can take care of that with AES and the water committee meeting, and make sure, we talked about moving that one sign on the east side up to Reals driveway where it used to be. Okay, okay, didn't think so.
I interrupted.
I need a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried, none opposed. Okay, youth?
Other than to report that the every after-school program seems to be growing all the time. We started out with about 25
I have a
kids.
question on the last resolution, and you didn't get back to me on it.
No, when we get to the public comment, you can ask the question. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you'd do it by sections, and that way.
No.
Unfortunately, no.
Let's get through this mess first, and we'll get right back.
So anyways, it's grown, has over 40 kids a day now. It fluctuates depending on what the parents have going on for them too. And I think the best thing that's happened with that program is the fact that the youth commission made a decision that in the interest of the children when they're going outside to play, that we block off the entrance to the armory on Amherst Avenue and at the gate on Champlain Avenue. That's not at Champlain Avenue, but it's the gate that's facing Champlain Avenue. So that those kids can play outside and we do not have to worry about their safety. And with the good weather outside, they're out playing today, so they're having a great time. So I think Sean has done a great job.
Okay. Thank you. Anything from seniors?
There is just one, can we just resolve Justin Coley Beamon's resignation?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna do it later, but I can do it right now.
Yeah, let's just.
All right. I have a resolution to accept the resignation with regret for Justin Coley Beaman, effective immediately.
September 19th.
Is that what the date was?
Yeah.
Okay, effective September.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no opposed, carried. I'm sorry, seniors?
Seniors did meet on a regularly scheduled meeting at 1 o'clock on Wednesday last. I have yet to receive the minutes from that meeting from them, but they had their normal budget review today, finance review. There really wasn't a lot of new news from out of the seniors, but they seem to be carrying on with their pickleball and other activities for them, so.
From health insurance, I have no updates to report. For contract negotiations, we went pretty well. Second and third labor relations discussions. For CSEA, occurred on the 26th and the 9th. We have discussions with police on the 19th and on the 8th of November. We have some additional meetings that are scheduled if they're in December if they're needed. We are closing in on agreements. The board has been briefed on the latest status and where we are in those negotiations. Cable, as you all know. Letter will serve as notice that on or around November 22nd, 2022, Spectrum Northeast LLC will add New York State Legislative Channel, there's inside one, in high definition and eliminate the standard definition on channels 83, 196, 229 on the channel lineup serving your community. Second one here. This letter will serve as notice that on or around November 29th, 2022, Spectrum Northeast LLC Spectrum will launch Fox weather satellite feed in high definition on channels 160 or 297, channel lineup serving your community. That is it for cable. Resolutions for finance. I have a resolution here to rescind the following resolutions. This came from discussions last month where we were required to move some money around to cover the low-income housing water assistant program payments. So this first one is resolution number 354. He just stepped out. Okay, resolution 3, different time. Resolution 354-2022, brought by Tom Cunningham, seconded by Joyce Cooper, authorizing the following budget adjustment. It was for sewer 05, the amount of $2,627.62, and from water district 6, the amount of $3,346.42. This was to fund accounts from the respective fund balances for the LEWOP grant. In addition to that, was water wastewater contractual expense in the amount of $5,974.04, and that was to fund from general fund balances for the LEWOP grant. This was approved. No one opposed this. This was approved. All in favor for everyone. Carried. The next one that needs to be rescinded is resolution number 355. 2022 that was brought by Dave Wood and seconded by Joyce Cooper, authorizing the.
You should do those separately. So Tom and.
Oh, I thought this was all one resolution.
No,
Okay.
they need to resend them individually because they brought them individually.
Okay, and so they have to do this in the order that was.
Right, Tom's
So
gonna
Tom,
rescind.
you would have to
Move it.
move the, okay, and Joyce, you would have to say. Okay, discussion on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. The next one is 355-2022. That was brought by Dave Wood and seconded by Joyce. Authorizing the following inter-fund loans from Sewer 5 due to other funds in the amount of $2,627.22. And it's transfer, that was to transfer funds from central sewer to the general until funding is received, grant funding is received. And then the next ones were to transfer funds from central water to the general fund until grant funding was received in the amount of $3,346.42. And that would be Dave Woods would have to move that, and Joyce would have to second. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. All right, the next one's a long one. Get ready. Resolution authorizing the following budget transfers. First group here is to fund under budgeted general accounts from contingency. The balance after that transfer is going to be $57,529.92. And that is $1,746.98. From contingency, $569.99 airport card fees, $1,100.84 to general storeroom, and $76.15 to refuse and garbage. Next group is to transfer funds to cover under budgeted general accounts. The first from general engineer in the amount of $9,103.68, with $877 on the payroll, $1,559 to general attorney, $2,618.30 to building heating oil, $47.49 to the police furniture supplies and maintenance, $1,837.83 to motor fuel for police, $175 to safety inspection legal fees, $96.75 to heating oil, $671.99 to programs for the aging motor fuel, $682.49 for beautification motor fuel, $245.26 to cemeteries, repair and maintenance, $292.50 to cemeteries motor fuel, and then $231.68 from police constable cell phone to vacation buyback. Next section of this is to transfer funds to cover CHIPS expenditures until reimbursement is received in the amount of $155,517.35. Next group was to fund under budgeted sewer accounts from contingency. The balance after this move would be $9,555.56. $106.83 from contingency to sewer propane. Next section is to transfer funds to cover under budgeted sewer accounts. First group in the amount of $7,550.13 from sewer collection system materials, $75 going to sewer district office supplies, $250 to sewage treatment disposal incentive, and $7,225.13 to sewer heating oil. $4,033.64 from sewer contractual electric, with $203.67 going to sewer safety equipment and supplies, another $1,056.97 to sewer motor fuel, $556 going to medical lab testing, and $2,217 going to sewer miscellaneous, lane spread and sludge. Last group in this resolution is to transfer funds to cover under budgeted water accounts. $390 coming from water pager from Benito to water pager Wright, and $250 from water treatment plant OT to water longevity, $1,673.51 from water miscellaneous filtration plant, with $392.65 going to water heating oil, $942.74 going to water motor fuel, $24.39 going to water life insurance, $41.93 going to water telephone landline, and $271.80 going to water safety equipment and supplies. I need a motion.
I'll move it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Please say no. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, carried. Next one, resolution authorizing the following budget adjustments. First grouping here is funding accounts by the general fund balance to cover increased costs. Police and medical insurance, the amount of $8,906.01. $13,309.57 for garage dive diesel and gas. $46,377 for sidewalk construction and replacement. $32,236.73 for airport fuel and filters. And $5,974.04 for water wastewater contractual. Next group here is funding accounts by highway fund balance to cover increased costs. $7,060.89 for highway employee medical insurance. $6,761.83 to cover highway motor fuel. And the last in this grouping is funding accounts by sewer fund balance to cover increased costs. $13.65 for sewage treatment and disposal, electric, and $11,155 for sewage treatment and disposal contractual. Motion, please.
I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Carried. A resolution authorizing the following interfund transfer funds from the general to the Eagle Lake Water Project in the amount of $245.00. Motion.
Move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Next grouping, resolution authorizing the following interfund loans. First is to transfer funds from highway to Veterans Road Culvert Bridge Project until funding is received. That is in the amount of $94,098.10. Next is to transfer funds from Central Water to lead service line replacement until funding is received. That is in the amount of $10,672.69. Next is to transfer funds from general to the airport apron project until funding is received in the amount of $9,564.72. Transfer funds from general to airport pavement project until funding is received in the amount of $10,148.96. And then to transfer funds from the general to the airport apron project until funding is received in the amount of $1,077.66, and that is the airport environmental assessment. Motion?
I'll move it.
It's seconded, but I will.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None carried. All right. As we discussed earlier, I have a resolution adopting the local law providing for the administration and enforcement of the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code, the Uniform Code, and the State Energy Conservation Construction Code, the Energy Code, in the town of Ticonderoga. I'll move it.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. And then the resolution adopting a local law repealing local law 2/2016, titled a local law providing for the administration and enforcement of the New York State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code.
I'll move that.
So you had a chance to move something.
I know, I was
Second, can I get a second, please?
Second.
All right, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. I'm gonna hold off on the budget resolution. I want to go back and check something that Joe had mentioned. And we'll either have a special meeting or do a finance meeting or something.
You can always do a budget adjustment at the beginning of the year, because it is actually, Sherry brought that to me, and I did not, once I got my COVID, I didn't bring it up to you. She saw it in there, and there is a discrepancy.
All right.
So you can amend it at the beginning of the year.
Okay, we'll do that.
Yep.
All right. I have a resolution to accept the 2023 Ticonderoga preliminary budget as the 2023 Ticonderoga adopted budget.
Second.
Discussion.
Yep. I move, everybody's in here.
Not you. Hold on.
Okay.
When we get to the public
Go ahead,
comment.
go ahead. Yeah, and this has to do with this.
When we
budget.
get to the public comment.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, so carried. A resolution to hold a public hearing regarding a local law entitled Regulating the Use of Town-Owned Real Property for December 8th, 2022 at 6 p.m. That's the camping.
the camping.
Do you want to move it?
Yes, I do.
There you go. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. A resolution to schedule the end of the year meeting on December 29th, 2022 at 9 a.m.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Did you want to check your calendar?
You know, I wrote it down before.
Oh, okay, correct. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so carried. A resolution to accept the minutes of the October 13 regular town board meeting, October 27th, 2022 finance meeting, budget workshop, September 14th, September 15th, September 21, September 23, September 27, October 21, and October 27.
I'll move it.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Resolution to pay the abstract.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. A resolution to accept the supervisor's report as submitted.
I'll move that.
Second.
All right, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. We have a fuel bid that we might want to discuss.
You only have one bidder.
Yeah,
Do not know what the suite is at. But I can't say he's normally lower state contract.
yeah, we had, the contract said we had one bid. I believe it was Avery, was it not?
Yes.
Yeah, Avery Energy. I assume you all have copies of this. Where it was provided to you. Not like we have a whole lot of choice. One bid and,
And he's lower than state contract. I mean,
Yeah.
you can always go to state contract, but that's why we ended up doing the bids now, because he always comes in lower.
well, if it's lower than the state contract, it's controversial. Looked like it was, let's see, per gallon max 24 cents a gallon for the max price plus fixed mark price per gallon. So what's the same 24 cents for rack price, fixed markup. That was for sulfur diesel. The other two were for ethanol and gasoline. Kerosene, we had, again, 24 cents for the per gallon rack price, plus a fixed markup price per gallon, 24 cents. Propane, again, per gallon rack price, plus fixed markup price per gallon, 24 cents. Heating oil, fuel oil, same thing, per gallon rack price, plus fixed markup price of 24 cents a gallon. So the total price per gallon rack price plus fixed markup per gallon was 24 cents. As the town clerk said, it's lower than the state contracts. I guess I put a resolution out there to accept the bid from Avery Energy as submitted.
So, do they want to jump on so?
We were waiting for you to say more.
What was that? Trying to pause.
We're going to set a system on this year.
All right,
Yeah.
that'd be good. Any discussion on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, carried.
They walk out, what's in that one?
No, it's not a whole lot of choice, yeah. It's true. Okay, that's all we have for resolutions, that's all we have. It's just the fuel bid, so, Tanya, you have anything?
I do not.
Counselor, you have anything?
We have hit the topics I need to.
All right. At that will then open up for public comment. Where'd my
Oh, did they make any arrest on them, the encampment up there on Stanton Street?
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier, the campsites that we were talking about.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? From what I understood, DEC made, I think, at least 2 arrests. And as somebody said, I think they were in court this week. I don't know what the result of the court hearing was, but yeah. I guess Mike.
He had to go, he said he was gonna email you.
Oh, all right, he knows where I live, so.
Okay, long as we have a lot of people here, this is going to be very informational. I'm very much aware on what happened with the Gooseneck project. I got dug into this a lot. I have around 700 signatures right here of people that have made it very clear that they do not want the well water. They made it clear. If you look back, this mandate, there was never a mandate to shut Gooseneck down, but yet that was filtered through the community. The state said, we must shut it down. That's not true. It was an agreement. Someone decided in their infinite wisdom that they were going to have an agreement. Now, the way this works, and I need people to understand this is, and if there's an agreement for something, okay, if you agree, you get a decree. If you don't agree, you don't get a decree. I mean, it's that easy. So this was an agreement. This was a workaround with the Department of Health and other people. So this was agreed upon without the people's buy-in. And let me go back and add something else. Mark, you weren't here on a lot of this, so you don't have to worry, but there will be a question for you at the end, okay? So Gooseneck, a quote was given, $30 million to redo the Gooseneck project, including everything, pipes, the whole 9 yards. And that was really put up there pretty good. And that was so that they could tell people that it's going to cost us $30 million to do this. The fact of the matter is, okay, the Department of Health said that you need to provide pristine water, and that wasn't the word they used, but that's basically it. You need to provide good water, and you had to use ultraviolet light to work with some protozoa or whatever it was.
Basically, you had to satisfy the Safe Drinking Water Act of
There you go.
1974.
There you go. Okay. And that was all they required. When Bill Grinnell was here, and that was before Joe, they talked about a $3 to $5 million repair. not a full-blown redo, a repair. And had that have been done, okay, they could have replaced pipes as time went along. Maybe this year so much, maybe this year so much and everything. But I think what happened was, and I'm gonna say this point blank, AES gave us a quote for $30 million plus to scare everybody into we're gonna go to the wells. In 2015, I have a document in here that said one well was gonna be installed, okay, for emergency backup. Son of a gun, in 2019, without the people knowing, somebody decided that we wanted another well and we were gonna disconnect from Gooseneck. A lot of people didn't understand what was going on here. So people do not want the well water. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, it's plugging up filters, it's doing all kinds of stuff that people do not want the well water. But yet, we get resistance from the town board to work with the people. I'm very concerned here because, you know, Mr. Wright, when you ran, okay, you were supposed to be in it for the people. And it doesn't look like you are because you're going along with everything they want to do here. Now, let's get real on this, okay? Now, let's get real, okay? You're not in it for the people. And let me tell you why. Because if you were in it for the people, okay, you would be saying, I'm going to work with you to try to do something and let them take the blame. But you're not. You're standing up with them. You are totally, totally wrong. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, Mark.
Sure, shoot.
Easy one. Yes or no? Will you support the people in working towards going back to Gooseneck? Yes or no?
I have a...
Yes or no, Mark?
Don't give me that yes or no stuff. I have a DOJ order that we are to cease gooseneck water by June of 2025. That is me helping the people by obeying a federal order.
Mark, are you willing to work with the people to help them do what they need to do to go back to Gooseneck? Yes or no? Personally, Mark.
We are not going back to Gooseneck.
Okay, so you're not going to work with the people?
No, I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth, Mr. Sheldon. We are working with the people.
No.
We're working with them to get those who have asked for help to get them water. It won't be gooseneck water. I don't care how many petitions you have there. We don't want to flutter in front of
You heard that? He doesn't care.
No, I said I don't care about your petitions that you're fluttering into my face. We are working with the people, those who have asked for help, to get them water.
Mark, the people want the gooseneck water back, and you are not willing to.
I can't give that to them.
You can. Yes, you can. You can
Counsel,
sit
would you
down.
like to explain to the gentleman?
No.
What
This
a
was an
DOJ order
agreement that can be
means?
renegotiated. You can renegotiate agreements, isn't that true?
So I'll start with it.
Yeah, how far back?
No, don't go far back. You can negotiate agreements, correct?
Who am I answering?
What is our current plan in terms of answering the decree?
The consent decree was a negotiated settlement of the prior. I just want to finish my sentence. That the town board agreed, the prior town board, this town board, agreed to years ago. The resolution to the tribunal court from the Department of Health that was ultimately set aside by the EPA coming in and bringing enforcement. The EPA oversees the Department of Health. The consent decree was a negotiated settlement to alleviate that action.
Right.
So at that time, the town board committed to a course of action. So that ship has settled. Now the question of, could the town board go back to EPA and the Department of Health through the Department of Justice to renegotiate to try to keep the gooseneck water? The answer from a legal standpoint is, yes, you could.
Yes.
However, what that's not going to do is it's not going to alleviate the taxpayers from paying the $8.2 million that just went to long-term. You cannot avoid that debt. So the taxpayers, to answer the question of could you do it financially, that's a town board question of could the taxpayers afford which was the filtration issue up at Gooseneck. You've already paid to put in storage, to cover the uncovered water storage, which was part of the violation. But the actual filter system that you would be required to build, you would have to go find a way to bond that and pay for it again. So that's not necessarily a legal issue. It does have legal implications because there's a limit to what the town board could borrow on behalf of the districts to do that and who would finance it. But that's the practical issue with them.
And it doesn't really change
Good answer.
the cost of what we would have to do to gooseneck to continue service. I mean, that is still a substantial cost.
Yeah, to put the $30 million, there's a poster somewhere, it's probably
Yeah.
still floating around back
Yeah.
there. To put it in context was not just limited to filtration, but also the long-term cost associated with gooseneck. So it was a global number. And actually, I think the 30 million might even be low.
It would be now, because that was years ago.
That was
I mean,
not
even
much.
if we did the project that we were thinking about, which was pushing well water up to gooseneck, which began at $8 million and now is well over probably $13 or $14 million. Even that was not affordable per EDU basis. So a $30 million plus is certainly not going to be affordable. Not only is it not affordable from a resident standpoint, but you couldn't even get it through the comptroller's office because of the EDU cost per individual. It's cost prohibitive, and they don't want a district.
That's just the Chilson Eagle Lake.
Yeah.
You have districts here.
Yeah, no, but
Well, he made a good point, you know, that it can be negotiated. And you're talking about 8.5 million, you've already dumped 14 million into the disaster on street road. Time out, let me finish.
I'm letting you finish this.
You dumped $14 million into street road. People are not happy with the water, they won't feed it to their pets, Mark. Their filters are being plugged up and everything. I think you need to be more understanding of what the people want, not what you guys think is fiscally best. The people are willing to pay more for pristine water, but they're not willing to pay for the water that we've got that's garbage, and you know that. My advice to you right now, okay, I know there's a lot going on in Albany right now, there's another person. My advice to you is you need to revisit this, because these people are not happy with that water. I'm not happy. 700 signatures aren't happy, plus more. We want our gooseneck water back, and we want you to recognize what the people want. You're either working for the people, Mark, or you're not. So the question I have is, will you support the people?
Your point
or
of
not?
view on that is, I'm not working for the people if I don't give you what you want.
No, if you don't give the people what they want, Mark, the people.
No.
See, you missed the whole point. The people. Mark, you want to see the names on this? You're not working for the
You're free to
people.
submit anything to the board that you would like to submit.
Listen, you're not in it for the people because you're supporting a bad decision by the board from before, and you're saying no. You know what, Mark?
What, Frank?
Unfortunate that you are sitting in that chair, because we need somebody that's going to work for the people, not for themselves, or not to support a bad decision that was made by people before you. If you said to the people, I'll support you, and let them take the heat, the people would be jumping for joy. But you didn't even do that. You just held everything that they did up because you want to be with this group. And that's what people know. 700 signatures right here. And really, you need to look back at this. We need to start looking at gooseneck. We need to get away from these wells. And if it costs us 8.5 million, you've already dumped a fortune, we'll probably suffer for that. But you didn't do your due diligence. Are you happy with the water?
I think he's doing a great job.
Yeah, well, maybe, but I don't think you're going to like the water. that
My
he's
name's
doing.
not on that petition.
Pardon me?
My name's not on that.
No, okay, well, that's why, but the people's names who are on these petitions are telling you that you're not doing what they want. It isn't about me, it's about them, Mark. So you're wrong.
It's an interesting perspective.
Question. Will you support the people on the gooseneck project or not? Yes or no?
I answered your question.
No, answer it again, yes or
I
no?
answered your question.
Yes or no?
Would you like the town clerk to read back the minutes?
I want to make sure it's on camera, yes or
It
no?
is on camera, I already said it.
Did you say no?
What do you think I said?
I'm asking you.
I
No,
already-
I want you to hear it from
I already
you.
answered your question. The town is going to continue helping the residents that want help to get them water. It does not include the gooseneck solution at this time.
Right, and you are not going to help the people work towards getting gooseneck back
Use
to the
whatever
water
language you
supply.
want to try and put into my mouth. I've already stated what I've stated. I've stated it twice because apparently you didn't hear it the first time.
Yeah.
That is what it is.
You're supporting a bad decision. And
That is
people know it.
that is your point of view.
No, it's everybody's point of view.
No, it's not everybody's
Oh,
point
yeah.
of view.
It's unfortunate because, Mark,
How many signatures you want on a petition?
you want 1,000? You want 2,000, Mark?
I mean, seriously. We're gonna get to the point, we have to work together to solve this problem.
The town has tried to work.
And this may not be an easy problem to solve. And maybe the Department of Justice, some of those other guys, you know, that put that consent decree together will tell you.
Agreement.
Now we can't do it.
would.
No.
The
But we
lawyer
have to
says that
pursue,
they
but we
can't.
have to pursue that.
Yes, we have to
If
pursue
can.
it.
Let's
If you
take
just-
a look at that.
If you just do this without the people's buy-in, I'm telling you, we're gonna pay for this down the road.
I'm at the country club all summer, and nobody on Baldwin Road, nobody on Black Point Road wants to give up Lake George water. They don't wanna give up Gooseneck water. And we've talked to guys like Don Hardy, who's a maintenance engineer, was a maintenance engineer at IP, probably the best one they ever had there. He said, just take your lumps right now, he said, you're gonna destroy this town. So, you wanna get somebody else to take a look at it, other than, the engineers you guys have had from AES, we can do that.
Let's get a real number on what it would cost just to
But-
repair it and put it into compliance.
Huh?
We need a number, what it would cost to put it into
And-
compliance.
We discussed that in.
What do you've got another problem here with the salt, how are you gonna handle that problem?
You know what?
What are you gonna do with that problem with the salt going in Lake Champlain?
Salt from what?
That you're getting it from everywhere.
Saltwater softener.
You got it, you got salt coming down here in the wintertime that goes into the sewer plant down here. Not,
Are you talking about from water filtration, I mean from
It-
in-house home water softeners, or what are you talking about?
it goes there through a different line. I had a conversation the other day, I talked to Ezel about that, that knows something about it, he was on the highway department. There are guys out there that'll tell you you've been getting salt in there for a long time, it just runs right down the hill. This guy down there in Burley's, what's he get? He gets a ton a
He
month,
gets a ton a month, I think, yeah.
2 tons a month,
That goes into our water.
That's
What's
just
that?
one business.
that goes directly into that sewer plant.
You got a brewery.
That water gets discharged into, gets discharged right into wetlands, an APA wetlands.
Yeah, we all understand the hardship or the.
Is anybody taking a look at that?
Of hard water.
Yeah, well, when it comes to the Clean Water Act, why is the DOH ignoring salt water going into a lake? When the Lake
DOH.
Champlain Association and the Lake George Association are working very hard on keeping rock salt away from our waterways, and we're just dumping it in there.
This board can't address.
Well, those guys in Vermont are not gonna let
Excuse me,
that water-
I am speaking, please.
Flow up there to where Burlington, on the shorelines.
This board doesn't address what.
And they're not gonna let that happen.
Would you please, just for a second? stop.
So,
He's already here.
I think,
No,
and
he can't hear him.
and you can't soften this water like Biedrich wants to do with sequestration. That's not a feasible option here. So,
Yes.
Anyway, Dan, what I was trying to say to you is, we can't control why or how or what the Department of Health or the Department of Justice or the EPA does in terms of them making legislation. That's not.
No, I get that, but I mean, what was being said before, and I remember when I asked you, Mark, Mr. Fuller, we talked about filtration in one of the early meetings. I don't know if you remember when I mentioned, why don't we just put purification in 109 homes? And you said that might be doable, and we could keep Gooseneck Pond. But we keep getting thrown that $30 million when all we need is filtration, whether it's in the homes or up at the pond. We've already resolved the covered reservoir.
Need repairs, that's all.
I believe we vetted and discussed that pretty much at the special meeting that I called when you guys had mentioned that you had a solution to Gooseneck Pond. We spent over 2 hours discussing that.
I really think that we need to.
Did you look at that
get our heads
study that
together in a room
AES
and really try to take a closer, maybe get some extensions from 25 on, maybe there'll be money down the road for this, to keep this better source of water. I mean, I've had discussions with Dave, we're all realizing how hard it is. I mean, at 19 grains of hardness, when you're trying to treat it with a top-of-the-line saltwater-based softener, you're only cutting 50%. That means these businesses are still gonna have to keep buying more and more salt and replacing things at a short term. You know, hot water tanks, it might last 15 years on soft water. Hard water, cut that in half probably. We're still, everything is, the inflation and everything else that is tied in with everything. I know that you guys have tried to look at this, but I think we just really need to get the DOH, the Department of Justice, DEC, get them back down here with our signatures and just kind of reopen it and try to see if we can, not put Band-Aids, but do things in smaller measures so we can keep the better water. So it's not costing us a lot of money.
They either want to support the people or they don't.
I'm an archaeologist. I've done it for 28 years. I dig buttons with iron shanks on the back of the buttons. The iron shanks are just like they were dropped yesterday because of the condition of our grounds up here. 250 years that button was in the ground, and it still has its iron shank. You got moving gravity water flowing through these lines. Probably a lot of these lines don't need to be replaced. They're steel, they're over an inch thick. Granted, there probably are some that need some attention. Let's get them as they break. Get the filtration in there. Pay for, what is it, 3 million, 4 million for filtration, 5 million? Or if you do it in everybody's home, 109 users, you can treat it from that new tank down. 109 users, how much is it going to cost for filtration in each individual home?
Well, we also want the people of Tide too, the people of Tide.
Well, that's why you disconnect. Why couldn't you disconnect from that old uncovered reservoir? Hook it up to that new reservoir. Treat it from there down and let us treat it with filtration in our homes or another plant up at the pond. We know it's the best water. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I mean, people are replacing their hot water heaters right and left. And I think the salt water is a concern. If we lose Lake Champlain or Lake George for drinking water, and everybody's on these wells, and now you got more salt flowing up north, I don't think the Canadians are going to like to hear that. I wouldn't if I was living up north.
You guys know, I'm the tip of the spear, right? I take direction from the town, and I would fight the town board wants to fight. So I know sometimes I'm the face of some of the comments, but I don't drive the policy. I carry it out.
Right.
But it's important thing I want to.
I can't hear what you're saying.
I'll tell you. One of the things I wanted to let you know is that the part of the consent decree that dealt with the district's violation, right? There's two parts. There's districts, and then there's the out-of-district violations. They're two different things. That's already been satisfied and closed. So I just wanted to dispel that myth that that part of the consent decree is gone. Okay? So from a legal standpoint, if I'm not being clear enough about that, please ask a question, but that part of the consent decree is closed. The districts are disconnected from the gooseneck supply.
But you said it could be renegotiated.
No, I'm talking about renegotiating for the Chilson Eagle Lake.
Oh, for Chilson Eagle Lake.
Yeah.
I got you.
There's no renegotiation for the districts. We've satisfied, we've gotten satisfaction from DOJ on that. The only part that you could possibly renegotiate at this point is the consent decree for Chilson Eagle Lake. So I just want to dispel any myth about that.
Well, gooseneck, still, Chilson and Eagle Lake, that still is going to pump water to them, but we could still pump water down to us.
You would need to reapply to do that.
Well, yeah, but is it doable? Is it possible?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's the answer we wanted to hear. It's possible.
I just want to make sure you understand that under the decree, that's closed. So the town has already satisfied that. Yeah, possible, but we need to go talk possible.
You answered the question that we've been saying. It's possible to do it, but they don't want to do it.
But I just want to make sure that the public understands that as it relates to the decree, the district part is done. So the disconnection of the districts from gooseneck is done. It would be, to put it a different way, it would be as if the town was going to apply anew to take water from gooseneck and satisfy the districts. Do we understand? Okay.
Yeah. But you made the point that it could be negotiated. That's
No
what we wanted to
different
hear. We've been hearing in the past that it was mandated, you couldn't, it was never a mandate. So we know that it can be negotiated, and the question becomes, are these people willing to negotiate? And if they're not in it for the people. And if they, that's the bottom line. If they will, they're in it for the people.
But
that's the way we see it.
The
when you're talking about negotiating, so you're talking about 100, and now 108, actually, 107. Users in Chilson Eagle Lake, there's no renegotiation with DOH and the EPA and the Department of Justice for the districts.
Well,
That would be a whole new permit process.
right, well, yeah, but I'm just saying, but it's possible. That's what we want to hear. Okay, it's
The other issue here we got is with DRI. That issue is,
About me,
yeah, okay.
I don't make those decisions.
I mean, this is a good program these guys have got. They've got an opportunity to go get some money. Maybe it's $6 million or 10 or whatever the amount that you guys are looking for to do the things you want to do here on Macon Street or someplace else down Ticonderoga. You can't bring people here that, without that kind of disclosure to those people that are giving you the money from New York State. I don't want my name on that. The town of Ticonderoga, our filers, what did they represent? Well, they were a basket of liberty. They've been a basket of liberty here in this town since 1775. Has that been discussed?
I don't understand your question. What is your question?
I'm asking you, has that been disclosed? That's got to be disclosed before you can.
The DRI,
Before you can ask them to get qualify for a loan.
The DRI
You can't barely qualify for that loan. Fairly, I'm saying.
It's not a loan.
The town is not qualified for that loan unless you discuss that fact, that water is hard for this town. When all that salt's going into Lake Champlain.
One of those things has absolutely nothing to do with the other.
DRI is not a loan. It is not, it is.
I'm just saying that
DRI is not a loan, and it is only for the downtown area. It does not go anywhere outside the downtown boundary. It has nothing to do with gooseneck water or any water at all. It's rehabilitation for the downtown area.
that water that's coming out of Street Road is no good for that brewery.
Well, apparently he thought it was good enough to set up business.
Well,
We have another one
Huh?
coming
On my side, outside of the town, I actually represent breweries. All the breweries I represent have reverse osmosis systems.
that's a separate issue, and maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe what I'm talking about right now, off the top of my head, I'm just talking off the top of my head. I'm saying it's just not fair. The town can't do it unless they make that disclosure. Now, if you want to make that disclosure to those other towns that are competing for that loan, well, fine, do it. Somebody's got to back the state, and that will have to be disclosed to everybody that comes into town of Ticonderoga that wants to come here and build a business here. You have to disclose to them what we're facing right now with with the extreme hardness of the water. And you can't fix it through sequestration. You're going to have to do it from an ionization standpoint. And that study that we got from AES that they went out and got for us is 2,500 to 3,000 pounds of salt a day just for that one well up there. That's not even a million gallons of water. That's about 850,000 gallons of water a day, just for that one well. That's a hell of a lot of salt, and if you think that the environmentalists are going to let that go into, you aren't going to come in and spend $400 million on a desalination plant. And you can't solve that problem with sequestration. And even if you put it through the softeners, you can only reduce that hardness by 50%. It's at 18 grains per gallon now. You're going to bring it down to 9, and hard water is 4 or 5. Those wells for the water town of Ticonderoga that's pure insanity. That's just absolute. You can ask the engineers that work for this mill. Guys are here, we can talk to them. We can have a discussion about that. We can bring in consultants. If you want to sit around and discuss that any further. You want to look at what it's going to cost us to ruin this town? No, we're not interested. Guys are not, we've got great water and we're not willing to keep it up. This is going to be a fight for the townspeople here.
Right, we appreciate your comments. We're on that.
Okay, I have one more comment.
We're not looking to replace this board. We want you guys to solve the problem for us,
Yeah, okay. Nicole, go ahead.
to help us.
We
solve
just,
that problem.
Excuse us, Vic, she's
To
speaking.
just switch subjects, duly noted, the ice rink, we just received another grant for $8,000 today from the Charles R. Wood Foundation.
Thank you very much.
Actually, repave that rink as we continue to invest in our youth and their recreation.
Thank you.
Okay.
How much was the amount?
We got it.
8,000. Oh my God.
Okay, I'm happy.
That's
Now-
wonderful.
You know that Mark Harrison has purchased a ring, right?
Well, we're not supposed to say, it's Ty Automotive has donated a rink.
Time
Like,
Warner.
yeah,
Who's this
so,
He was the spirit at
he
it.
was the spirit, and he will be getting, tribe will be giving him
She's
a
probably
tax
the dear.
letter to recognize his
And
donation.
that all has to be kind of worked.
Can you bring it into Parks and Rec next Tuesday?
Yeah, no, I've been wrangling Ash and
Terrific.
everybody, we will all be there, so we can make things right with you and,
Thank you.
go through the proper channels.
That's
I was
wonderful.
not aware about the.
You can't handle
that,
song.
right?
You
I
There's
was
been
aware, so
several
like,
different efforts.
We need
I mean,
we need to form a committee, and I told them that
You
I'm,
might
we're
as well
going
admit
to
it
come up with
and
a
get out of this
strategic
deal.
plan for this and our small committee, so we can, communicate a little bit better. Yeah, so anyway, I thought maybe we would have a little bit of levity and happiness for our youth that are gonna have a
Bring
good
out my
winter.
skates.
On their ice skates, on their new rink, and hopefully not vandalizing anything.
I have one more comment here, and then I'm gonna get out of here, okay? And you were talking about your salary cuts and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
When a person gets paid X amount, and they get X amount more, that's their total salary for the year. That's what their W-2 shows. The fact that you donate $8,000 back does not constitute a pay cut, okay? And
It does
you've got-
for me.
Well, it does to you, but the fact is, you misled the people.
No, it comes back to the general fund.
It doesn't make any difference. Your W-2 reflects that total amount of money. What you donate back is to your business. But don't tell people that you took a pay cut
I
because
did.
you made a donation back.
No, I did.
No. Well, show everybody
it's
your
remedial
W-2.
math.
Show everybody your W-2 at the end of the year.
It's
We didn't
remedial
take
math,
any pay
Frank.
cut.
I don't understand why you don't understand it.
Listen, I know finance better than you'll ever know it, Mark.
Yes,
And I
we
see
do.
how much wasted spending there is with this group here. And how much better it could be for people, and how much cheaper it could be.
Right.
But you don't have any vision, you don't, never mind. You guys are, it's unfortunate that you can't look at this and think of the people when you start putting numbers together.
Appreciate your comment.
Steve, I'll write you this check.
Hey, you got a piece of paper here, you dropped.
So anyway, that's not a pay cut, that is a donation.
All right, thanks.
It's a generous act.
Appreciate it.
Well, it's the truth. Steve, how do you want?
All right, there's nothing else. We will adjourn.
We could get a couple hundred. We could get 2,000 signatures on it, on that petition that you got in the sand right there.
Yes. I'll
We're
second it.
adjourned.
We're adjourned.